It's finally here. Nintendo Switch 2 week is upon us, and Nintendo announced that not only do we get a Nintendo Direct tomorrow for Switch 2, it's going to be about 60 minutes, so we're going to get a lot of good stuff tomorrow morning. We also get 2 days of Nintendo Treehouse Lives. They're going to live stream these games that they're going to show off tomorrow, I'm assuming. We're going to see a ton about Nintendo Switch 2. I'm sure they'll show off the Joy-Con, like mouse mode, they'll show off the C button. They're going to show off a ton of stuff over the next 3 days. And then we also get the hands-on experiences beginning. I'll be there on Friday, day 1 in New York. We're going to be there hands-on with the Switch 2, so we're going to get to play this thing this week. So we're going to have a ton of content coming for you over the next couple of days, from the Direct to the live streams, keeping you posted what's going on there, as well as the Switch 2 experiences and my thoughts and my experience as getting to play Switch 2. So you're going to want to follow along for all that, so hit that subscribe button, like this video. We are on an awesome journey for Switch 2, and it's going to be a fun week. You're not going to miss any of it. So let's dive in. This week, we're talking, or I guess today really, we're talking Nintendo Switch 2 Direct predictions. I think there's a lot of stuff that they're going to show. 60 minutes is a beefy Direct, so I think they're going to break this. They're going to have some cool flow to this. They're going to do something cool. So let's talk predictions on what we can expect to see tomorrow. Let's just dive right in. So let's start off with the games. So I'm just kind of conversing, talking about, thinking about this. What does Nintendo want to show us? So I think the first thing makes the most sense. They're going to showcase Mario Kart 9. I think it's called Mario Kart 9. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe was awesome. It sold crazy amounts of units. Like, we already know that this game is the best-selling Nintendo game, probably the best-selling video game of all time. So how do they follow that up without confusing people? I know we've heard people calling the next one Mario Kart X, Mario Kart 10, whatever the case is, Nintendo Kart. I don't think that they don't go away from Mario Kart. The IP is too strong. It makes too much sense to call the next thing Mario Kart. I don't think that they will. I know that they think Mario Kart Tour on the mobile. I don't think that's really Mario Kart 9. I know they kind of treated it like Mario Kart 9 in some sense. People have thought like that's a Mario Kart 9. That's why they'll call the next game Mario Kart 10 because of Tour. I don't think they do that. I think they're going to leave the mobile game aside. I know they brought tracks to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. I think that they leave the mobile game alone. They call this next thing Mario Kart 9. It makes the most sense. When people get onto the Switch 2, when they first upgrade, they've had Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. What's next? Mario Kart 9. It just makes the most sense. I think this is going to be called Mario Kart 9 at the end of the day, and I think Nintendo does that tomorrow. We'll officially see Mario Kart 9. We'll get some more info on what the game is going to do. I think they'll kind of do like a sizzle reel potentially of all these games. I think Mario Kart 9, though, is what it's going to be at the end of the day. Now, this morning, we did see a couple of new trademarks. Credit to Mike Odyssey over on Twitter. He posted a couple of trademarks and things that kind of popped up for Nintendo. We saw Yoshi's Adventure on there. We saw Nintendogs make a return. So we could potentially see some of these games. I think Nintendo's going to show a lot of first-party stuff. I don't think all of the stuff that they show, though, is going to be available at launch. I think they're going to have to kind of fill out the rest of the year. I don't think we might not see everything, obviously. The 60 minutes is a long time, but they've also got to show us a ton more than just the games. So going back to that, I think that we are going to see a bunch of first-party stuff. We'll see a couple of games like Nintendogs. We could see, Yoshi's Adventure. Do we see Metroid Prime? Do we see Pokemon Legends ZA? It's possible. Now, those are also coming to Nintendo Switch, and they did show them in the Direct that we just had last week. So do they showcase them again? I'm partially leaning towards not, because they're going to be on Switch 1. I think that this stuff is going to want to be focused on Switch 2. Now, a lot of stuff could potentially come to Switch 1, but those games were all previously announced. I think Nintendo just kind of wants to give people the idea that those are Switch 1 games. Here's our stuff that is coming with the next Nintendo Switch. Could we see something Zelda? Do we see an Ocarina of Time remake? People have been talking about that like crazy. I don't know. That would be crazy. That would be wild if we got Ocarina of Time before we got Wind Waker and Twilight Princess. I think that's the other one. I think if we see something Zelda, it's either Wind Waker and or Twilight Princess, potentially an Ocarina of Time something. I don't think we see a Hyrule Warriors. We just got Echoes of Wisdom, so I don't think we're going to get another 2D Zelda. We're not going to get the next Tears of the Kingdom or whatever they decide to do with 3D Zelda. Maybe we see a backwards compatibility thing for Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild. They showcase 60 frames per second, the no load times. We heard all about that leading up to the Switch 2. Do they showcase some of that? I think that going into the games for first-party stuff as well, they'll show us this new stuff, but they're going to show us backwards compatibility going into that Breath of the Wild stuff. They're going to show us what does it look like. Do they have patches for it? I think that there's going to be, I mean, we've seen some stuff that indicates that they're going to have some sort of upgrades for backwards compatible games. I think like games like Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, stuff like that, some of those bigger Nintendo games, they're going to have something, I think. And I think they're going to talk about that at length. So I think as far as first-party stuff, we're going to see a couple of those new games, like maybe we do see Nintendogs. I think we're going to talk Mario Kart 9. They're going to showcase something for the mouse mode of the Joy-Con. That's a given. There's going to be some sort of game that they showcase with that to kind of get us introduced to the new mechanic of the mouse, what we can do with it. Maybe they showcase, some third-party game as well. I think that, think of games like Civilization 7. Mouse mode's going to be freaking awesome for that. So I think that they're going to showcase some of that stuff. First-party wise, and I think they're going to definitely dive into backwards compatibility, help us understand more about it. They introduced the game cards in the last Direct. I think they did that so they wouldn't have to worry about it in this Direct, and they can kind of just talk about the upgrades that we could see. Third-party stuff. I think we will see some third-party stuff here as well. Do we see Halo Master Chief Collection? Nate the Hates talked about it. Do we see, some other Microsoft stuff, like Microsoft Flight Simulator? Could there be a Microsoft presence here? Do we see Doom Eternal? That's supposed to come out sometime soon. Doom and Bethesda have done stuff with Nintendo. Skyrim was a Switch game. That was the first time we got a Nintendo system. Do we see some stuff there? Do we see Sony put some stuff on? Do we see Square Enix put some stuff on? I don't know, probably not Sony, but Square Enix. Do we see Final Fantasy stuff hit? Do we see, EA put some stuff on? Do we get Jedi Fallen Order? Do we get Elden Ring? Like, there's a ton of stuff that they could do for third-party stuff. I mean, going back to EA, do we get sports games? Do we get Madden? Do we get NCAA football? Do we get NHL? Like, a lot of these stuff we haven't gotten on Nintendo Switch. It sounds like we're going to get on Switch too. And I think that these third-party developers, even the big ones like EA and, Square Enix, Microsoft, they want to showcase their stuff on Switch too. There's a whole new fan base that they haven't touched in a long time, that their stuff's now going to run on a Switch 2. So I think we're going to see some cool third-party stuff. I don't know if we get all of this at once. I don't know if some of it, maybe they want to hold for themselves. Like, does Microsoft want to announce it? Do they want to let it do in a Nintendo Direct? I don't know. I think the Nintendo Direct makes the most sense for it, depending on when stuff's going to release as well. So we'll have to wait and see. But I think we're going to see some really cool third-party stuff here as well. So I think that kind of covers the games, from Nintendo to third-party stuff. There's going to be a lot of games shown. I think that at the end of the day, that's the reason you want to get a Switch 2. The other stuff's going to be cool. They're going to be bells and whistles. They're going to be hardware upgrades. I get it. But at the end of the day, you're going to want to Switch 2 because of the games. And if third-party and Nintendo can provide first-class games exclusive for Nintendo Switch 2, that's going to be the main selling point. And I think that Nintendo is going to showcase that heavily tomorrow. Now, diving in, they have a whole hour. I think that's going to be a big part of it. We talked about backwards compatibility being a part of it as well in that segment. I think that obviously they're going to showcase the hardware. What makes this different than Nintendo Switch? How is it more powerful? Maybe they don't get in the whole bells and whistles of everything. They don't talk about RAM. They might not talk about, DLSS upscaling and AI upscaling. They might mention it here and there. I don't think they're going to do some big deep dives on it. The general consumer is not going to care about that. They'll think it's cool. They're not going to understand it. I think that they're going to showcase mouse mode heavily. They're going to get into the attaching of the Joy-Cons. We're going to learn about the C button. What the heck's the C button? That could be the C button, honestly, from all the leaks and all the rumors. We've heard so many different things. The C button itself could be something totally different and totally unique that could take up 10, 15 minutes, depending on what it actually is. Do we see the OS? Do we finally get themes? Do we finally get folders? What does the Nintendo do in there? I think we might see bits and pieces of that. I know I listened to Crit and Krista the other day. Shout out to them. They mentioned they don't think we'll see this in length. Maybe a little bit, but it could just be something really similar to a Switch, and they're going to be working on it basically until the actual release date, and then they even release a patch. We get some sort of downloaded update day one for the OS. Super possible. So I'm going to lean into their experience and maybe say we don't see a ton of it, but it is possible. I'm not going to say it's not possible, because at the end of the day, they have to showcase what makes this different than Nintendo Switch. And I think there's going to have to be something on the OS that makes it more desirable, more different from a Switch. And maybe that's even have to do with the C button. Maybe that all ties into it as well. So I think, you know, at the end of the day, that's kind of where we're sitting. And then these treehouse events, they're going to showcase these games. You know, maybe they showcase this mouse. I'm sure they'll do something with the mouse game. Whatever the mouse game ends up being, they'll showcase that at length. So there's a ton of stuff that we're going to get over the next couple of days. I'm super excited to see what Nintendo does. An hour, like I said, an hour is a pretty long time. So they're going to have a decent amount of chunk time for the games, for third-party games. They'll talk backwards compatibility. I'm sure they'll talk upgrades. They'll show this thing in action. We're going to get, obviously, we'll get a release date. Let's talk about this a little bit. Release date and pre-order timing. Could it be on pre-order tomorrow? Some people are saying it's the 9th. Some people are saying it's tomorrow. I'm going to be ready tomorrow. I'm going to be looking at, you know, GameStop, Best Buy, Target, Walmart, whatever the case is. I'm going to be refreshing. Nintendo, I would assume, is going to announce it as well. So while we're watching it, we'll have a better idea. I still think there's a chance that some of these retailers might jump the gun. Because at the end of the day, they can kind of do pre-orders how they want. I will be interested to see what Nintendo does for their own pre-orders on nintendostore.com or whatever. I think that there's going to be, you know, I think they've kind of talked about that there might be some sort of way to, you have to be a Nintendo Switch Online member to do so, to get a pre-order from them, but that won't preclude you from getting it from Target or Walmart, GameStop or Best Buy or whatever. So be ready tomorrow. You might have to get that credit card handy. It might not be till the 9th. But Nintendo, I think, is going to let us know when that is. We're also going to get a price. I think that this thing hits at $399, $400. Makes the most sense, in my opinion. They're going to be, you know, it's going to have an LCD screen. So people are going to be, I think of it as a nicer LCD screen. I think we don't need to be too worried about it. But I think that gives them a chance to then release an OLED version at a little bit higher price. You know, upsell us again, get people to buy another Switch, just like they did with the OLED, just like they did with the Switch Lite. I think Nintendo does that again here. And then release date, you know, do we see it in May? Do we see it in June? We're going to get a release date tomorrow. I'm thinking that it's probably going to be in June just based off of what everybody's saying. But even then, that's not that far away. You know, 3 more months. We waited that long for this. We're going to get a ton of information. I think the Nintendo Today app, and between that and the tree houses, they're going to be releasing so much information. And even just trying to get a pre-order in, you know, that gives them a little bit more time to find a pre-order. I think June probably is where it's going to end up falling. It would be awesome if it hits in May. I would love it to see it in May. But I think, you know, probably the first part to the middle part of June is when it's going to make the most sense. But we'll have to wait and see. So at this point in the video, though, what do you guys think? What do you expect to see from Nintendo tomorrow and from the Treehouse events? Like I said, this is going to be a fun-filled next couple of days between all of these events Nintendo's going to be live streaming. And then, of course, make sure you're going to follow along for the Switch 2 experiences. We're going to keep you posted on what we get to do, what our experience is like with the Nintendo Switch 2. And we're only going to have to wait just a couple more days for that as well. So hit that subscribe button, like this video so you can follow along for all of that. I thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments below. Get that conversation going. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on what you think we'll see from Nintendo coming up and what you are hoping for. Maybe it's something, you know, over the next couple months that Nintendo could do to just make Switch 2 that much more exciting for you personally. So hope you enjoyed. Thanks again for watching. And until next time, catch you later.